This is something I've wanted for a while. This is an air quality meter, and this is a fairly decent one. This detects particulates in the air as well as VOCs in the air. And I've wanted it for this place forever because, well, I can't see what's in the air, and I want to make sure that the air that I'm breathing is healthy because I spend a bunch of time in here. So yeah, in this video, I'll show you what I discovered, what this thing has told me about the air in here, and how I fixed it. Also, the irony is not lost on me that I have a cold, a respiratory thing, as I'm doing a video on air quality, but I have a toddler in daycare. I have colds continuously. With that said, if I was breathing better quality air, I'd probably recover a lot faster. Anyways, besides the point, first thing to do, run the meter, run my standard production day, and just see what the air quality is like. And yeah, the data was not good. It basically said that the air quality in here was equivalent to the most polluted cities on the planet, which is not what I want to be breathing in all day. So I had to fix that. The first method I used was just run a carbon filter off the side of the lathe, not sealed up or anything, just to see if that would mitigate any of the results or any of the effects, pull up some of the particulate matter out of the air. What I found out is that made it significantly worse. Carbon filters aren't typically designed to filter particulate matter out of the air, so all it was doing was pulling the oil atomized particles from the lathe, bringing it through the filter and then blowing it out the fan and then mixing it into the shop air much faster than it was normally mixing. So I was able to see worse results faster. And then the furnace filters weren't able to filter out any of that particulate matter fast enough. So yeah, it just got into kind of a feedback loop where the air quality got far worse. It also upped the VOCs significantly because it was pulling all the kind of volatiles out of the lathe and once again mixing it into the air way faster than it's able to dissipate or be exchanged with fresh air. So yeah, bad idea. That didn't work at all. Next thing to do was to seal the lathe up as best as possible so I could generate negative air pressure. By generating negative air pressure inside the lathe, that means any air that's in the shop will be flowing into the lathe cabinet and then out the exhaust. So any particulate matter should also flow out the exhaust. It shouldn't have a chance to flow into the shop. I chose to use a bunch of chloroplast sheets because it's cheap and it's easy to work with. And then down the road, I can take those chloroplast sheets and transfer them over to acrylic so I have nice templates, which is why it took a little bit of time to make all the cuts fairly precise so that I can transfer them over to something more pretty in the future. I also made it so that it wouldn't impede any of the functions I have to do on the lathe, which is, it's also nice to work in chloroplast because once again, if you make a mistake, you can just throw it away and get a new sheet. It's very, very inexpensive. With that all done, I walked around the lathe with an incense stick just to see if I was indeed generating negative airflow. And while it wasn't extremely powerful, it was definitely flowing into all the cracks of the lathe, which means nothing should be flowing out of the lathe. The funny thing is just burning incense in my shop for like 5 minutes jacked up the air quality. There's so many things that we do, like lighting candles in your home, that just mess up your air quality royally, but it's not all that. It doesn't matter all that much, but just having a meter and being able to see the results is like, it's way more scary than it is. I mean, you light a candle in your house and you blow it out. There's such a high volume of air in your house. It exchanges, it fixes itself fairly quickly. But like, if you're in a household that smokes, man, the air quality would be terrible. This is what this little machine has taught me. It's just like, I'm gonna have tinfoil hat and like Kleenex boxes on my feet in like short order because it just makes you paranoid of everything. Anyways, carrying on with the results. And because on occasion I like to deviate from smart scientific experimentation and put the cart ahead of the horse, I decided to build myself a filter box instead of just piping this air outside. The reason I wanted to do that is building the filter box was easier than building this exhaust manifold that I'll have to build later in this video. So I took some of those fancy filters that I use for my furnace and for the little dust collector thing that sits above my head in most of these shots and put 4 of them into a cube and then just piped the air into that. I sealed it all up well with tape. And the surface area of the filter cloth material and the CFM of the fan all line up. So I'm not overloading any of those filters, but they did nothing. The results were terrible. Those filters will filter far below 2.5 microns, but I think the main issue is not so much the filter cloth, but the construction of the filter themselves. If that cloth isn't bonded well to the little cardboard carrier that holds them, you'll get so much bypass that it just negates the result. In a very low flow application, like the little box fan over my head, it works much better because the air particles there's really no pressure behind them. There's no force behind them. Whereas this instance, they're being pushed through that filter with a fairly high amount of force. So yeah, total waste of time, but I'll use that filter somewhere else. I'll use it, in the basement on the exhaust port of my sandblasting cabinet or something to help cut down on some of the dust that produces. But yeah, just a little rabbit road that I thought would save me time, but just added more time. So after that little deviation, I went ahead and built the exhaust box that I had planned to build at the start. This is just a fancy chloroplast manifold that lets me pipe the air under the garage door and just have it open a minimal amount. I can open it 2 inches and still get the same surface area that that fan requires to push the air outside. The results. After running the lathe for 10 minutes with the systems running that I built up here, I noticed no change on the meter. After half an hour, I noticed no change on the meter. After a full day of production, I noticed no change on the meter. Whatever the outside reading was is the same that I'm seeing inside. So the inside air is now as fresh as the outside air, which is awesome. That's all I could ask for. That lets me know now that with the current CFM that I have that fan pulling, as long as I buy a commercial mist extraction unit that's at that CFM or more, I shouldn't have any issues generating negative air pressure. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna oversize it so it can work with other machines in here. But yeah, that's an ideal result. Next thing I did was just print some pretty, couplings and whatnot, some fancy ductwork to duct it to the mill as well, so I can handle some of its mist that it produces. And we're gonna run this. We're gonna run this for the next while with nice clean air in here and see how it fares. And then I'll figure out the commercial unit that I wanna go with, so I'm not just pumping the air outside. Thankfully, this winter has been really mild, so I don't have to worry about the super, super frigid temperatures freezing my shop and causing me to, spend a fortune on gas, but I'd rather spend a fortune on gas than my lungs. I can always get more gas, can't get more lungs. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching along, and I'll see you next time. Take care.